for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Sin Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So S-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick.
I'm indeed rather energized today to be here in Windsor Road, starting my formal campaign on the ground. The interaction with the people was indeed extremely positive, and I feel very confident that once I get the opportunity to explain to the residents all over the constituency why it is that we need to make some radical changes, and why it is that I'm going to ask them to repose confidence in me when the election is finally determined after the 19th. I want to give them the full assurance that I will protect their interests, and I continue to work hard and diligently on their behalf. But you know, the branch is fully mobilized, and we are going to continue this canvassing exercise every single day until that particular day when the votes are being counted. On January the 19th, I want you to come out to your numbers. I want you to come out to your numbers because Barbados is at the crossroads. We are going down the wrong path. But I came out of Budlam Baptist Church and Sister P Church. And I am not God. I believe in God, and I can put God first in what I do. That's why I'm on the job. Rest assured of that.
Biggity. The best pick is Eswick.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here at Leadville on the behalf of the Democratic Labour Party. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeffrey Ince, and I am speaking on the behalf of not only the Democratic Labour Party, but Dr. David Eswick as the next representative for St. Philip West. Good night to comrades, friends, members of the electronic and print media, those of us who are following this meeting on social media, whether it is Instagram, YouTube, or the electronic media of Yahoo. Welcome to Leadville. Welcome to what I would call an important meeting. I'm going to have a conversation with you. I want to have a conversation with the people of Leadville and the surrounding districts. We are not going to go down any road. I'm not going down any road of economics and finance. But I want you to sit in your homes, to sit in your cars, in your verandas, in your patios, in the small entertainment areas, whether it is a shop, a bar and restaurant in the area, and let us have a conversation. I am going to talk to you. And despite you're not talking back to me, I understand your language. And it is important because come January the 19th, you are going to exercise your right. You are going to be part of an important event that decides the future of Barbados. You are going to be part of an important event that is going to decide the future of your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grands. You are going to be part of an event that is going to decide what direction the debt management of this country is going. The overall management in the social, economic, and financial environment of this country. So tonight, we are going to be honest with ourselves. We are going to think. I want you to reflect. I want you to sit back and think about the last 3 years. I want you to ask yourself a question. Why it is that a prime minister who was given a mandate to govern the affairs of this country until an election date is due would overnight, without any consultation with members of her cabinet or civil society, decided that she is going to call an election out of mid-air. Now, this is the same government that came to you in 2018 with a covenant of hope. But I know, and I do understand, my brothers and sisters, here in Leadville and the surrounding areas, that covenant of hope is now a covenant of despair. It's now a covenant of pain. It is now a covenant of uncertainty. It is a covenant of a dismal future as you examine the activities of this government. So that is why I say to you that we are going to have a conversation. And in coming to you with that covenant of hope, you gave them 30 seats in Parliament. 30 seats in Parliament. And they made you believe that they had the answers and the solutions to every problem in Barbados. But what we have realized in the past, from 2020 until 2022, on this, the 8th day of January, that this government called the Barbados Labour Party have led this country on 5 principles. And that is why I say the conversation. And those principles that the Barbados Labour Party have led this country on, and I repeated it at every meeting until tonight here at Leadville, and I am going to speak to you tonight on the 5 principles that the Barbados Labour Party have managed the affairs of this country from May of 2018. And what are those principles? The principles, because I don't think that Mayor Amar Mortley, the Prime Minister, understood when she said that there was a covenant of hope. So what are those principles? The first principle that they ran this country on was a principle of lies. The second principle, a principle of deceit. The third principle, a principle of deception. The fourth principle is a principle of communication propaganda. And the fifth principle is borrowed money. They are expected to run this country on borrowed money. So when we look and examine what have happened, what have taken place, why would a Prime Minister in her anxiety, called an election in the midst of COVID. And what I am hearing tonight, I don't want to believe, because I saw a simple news item on social media that 5 members of the Barbados Labour Party, 5 candidates, have came down with COVID. That is what I saw on social media tonight. And I know that sometimes you have false information floating around on social media. I know that you cannot believe everything that you read. But that information says that 5 candidates of the Barbados Labour Party have came down. Be as it may, that does not give an excuse for the mismanagement and the deception and the deceit that they have shown to Barbadians in the past 3 years. What we have seen, my friends, is that they came to us, and they came to us under the pretense that with those solutions and answers, that they were going to answer to the housing problems, that they were going to answer to the infrastructure problems, that they were going to answer to our welfare problems, and that the Democratic Labour Party, and that is what they sold to Barbadians under deception, the principle of deception, that the Democratic Labour Party was the worst thing that have happened to Barbados, that the Democratic Labour Party under the leadership of Faradell Jerome Stewart was so indifferent, that we were corrupt, that we were not suitable to lead a government. That is what they say to you. So what we did is that in our exuberance, without thinking and getting caught up in what we call the catchphrases of the Mayor Motley administration, because we have a Prime Minister who talks pretty. But the good book says that empty vessels make the most noise.
Oh Lord!
The good book says, and I'm going to repeat it, that empty vessels, and we accuse Faradell Stewart of not talking, but he was acting. He had the calm hands to lead this country, that in a level head. But we wait for a Prime Minister who can speak eloquently, who can speak for 2 hours without looking at a piece of paper. And we said Mayor bright. We said that Mayor is eloquent, that she has the pedigree. That is what we said. That she is born to be a leader, that she was born to be a Prime Minister. And what we did is that when she was sitting in the pew, and I'm going to repeat it because I want you to listen. A lot of people here but don't listen. I want you to listen, because we're having a conversation. We are having a conversation. And while she was sitting in the pew in the church along with the congregation, we made her believe that she was so brilliant. We made her believe that she had all of the class and that she was born to lead. So we gave her a full mandate. We got on the bandwagon and gave her a full mandate. She moved from the pew of the church to the pulpit of society. And we asked her to stand behind the pulpit, Madam Prime Minister. And as she stood behind the pulpit with all of the catchphrases about we is we, this is Barbados, we are in this together, give me the vote and watch me, we got your back, all of these things, we realized that as time went by, that as the progress of time, we realize that we have a Prime Minister who was nothing more than a wolf in sheep clothing. Cloak with all of the phrases you can think about. A prime minister who is intent on going on international stages, getting all of the awards you can think about, and to make people believe that Barbados is in good shape. We all know that there are persons in Leadville tonight. There are persons in Foursquare. There are persons in Sweet Street. There are persons who are here in Searles that have to decide. Persons who are living in the development right in front of me, right across from me, right here in Leadville. Persons who are wondering tonight whether or not their houses are going to be repossessed by the banks. There are persons tonight who are wondering what light bill they are going to pay, what water bill they are going to pay, how they are going to pay. This is the position of Barbados. This is what the Mayor Motley administration, as they have put it, Mayor cares. This is the care that have been dished out to Barbadians. That is the care. That is what was given to us. And that's why I say the conversation is important. Not pretty talk, a conversation. So Barbadians are wondering tonight. The Prime Minister said that all of a sudden the country is divided. The country is divided. Another mark of deception. Remember, I said to you that we're going to have this conversation on 5 principles. So we now have the mark of deception. She says that the reason why she called the early election is because that the country is divided. Now come on people, we have common sense. We know that if you are given a full mandate of 30 seats, how on earth the country get divided? It isn't the country that is divided. It is her party, the Barbados Labour Party, that is divided. You see, when they were running around the country singing the song called The Lost Decade, now they wasted 3 good years. The Barbados Labour Party had 3 good years in which to restructure this economy, in which to make the housing challenges in this country feasible for persons. But no, instead of dealing with the issues, they spent every hour, every week, every second singing a song called The Lost Decade. All of them were on the same page. They had a united choir. But as of January the 8th tonight, the choir of the Barbados Labour Party is now divided between 17 and 13. 17 under George Payne singing the alto, and 13 under the Prime Minister singing bass. That is where the 17-13. So there's no more talk about the last decade. The choir split. You have a split choir. But what I must say to you, that all of the talk about the last decade, and that is why I say deception, 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 deceit, communication, propaganda, lies, with all the talk about the last decade. I want every individual in Leadville tonight and in the surrounding areas, listen to us. Listen to what we have to say. During that period that they talk about. And it must be repeated over and over again. The Democratic Labour Party built the Bestos Santos Lab. We built the Blackman and Gallup School. And let me tell you about the Bestos Santos Lab. When Dr. David Eswick, who is going to be your next representative, because we are going to send Keir McConney back under the rock from which he crawled. That is what we are going to do. And we built that Bestos Santos Lab before you had the Ebola. Because when we found out that Barbados did not have what you call a world-rated lab, when we found out in cabinet, I was part of that decision making. Dr. David Eswick was Minister of Agriculture. John Boyce was Minister of Health. Faradell Jerome Stewart, the Prime Minister, and the Cabinet of Barbados said there is no way that we are going to function in Barbados, and we have to send important blood samples to Trinidad or to Florida. We did not have a world-class lab. So we identify the area now where it is to build a lab. And I want you to remember, I want you to think, because that is why I'm saying we are having a conversation. So I am in no hurry. I am not here to speak finance and economics tonight. I can speak finance and economics and confuse you. I am not going to do it. This is a night for the conversation, because January the 19th, you have an important job to do. You have to reverse the history and the nonsense of the Barbados Labour Party. So, when we decided to build a lab, I want you to remember that the same Mayor Amar Mortley, along with the Barbados Workers Union, along with the NUPW, along with members of the Teachers Union, they took all of the children from St. Winifred's School, from Ursuline Convent, from St. Paul's, and lined Column Rock. I want you to remember that they blocked Column Rock in protest of the Besto Santos lab, saying that the monies were being stolen. Our Bajans would say that the Democratic Labour Party was thieving the money. They said that we were corrupt, that we were mismanaging the affairs, and all of the children, including with the help of Mary Redmond, who was part of the Teachers Union, lined Column Rock and literally blocked the street in protest against the Besto Santos lab. Tell me what would have happened to Barbados when Ebola struck down. Then we had SARS, and now we have COVID. Had it not for the foresight of the Democratic Labour Party, tell me what would have happened to Bajans today or tonight. Tell me. But they're allowed, but things can only run for a time. I must say to you that evil cannot conquer goodness. So when they thought that by running up and down and telling people about the last decade, that would sustain Barbados, that would sustain a country, it began to run out, and we began to see the cracks and the crevices and the dismantling of Mayor Mortley and the Barbados Labour Party. So that is why she called an early election. So in all of the hype, in all of the deception, in all of the deceit, in all of the communication propaganda, Barbadians began to see that what they were saying, what they were doing, did not match up. Now this is the same government who said, and if you listen to her about if she is re-elected. Now I want you to think, that's why I said the conversation, my friends. The Prime Minister is saying, if I get re-elected, and I cannot understand for the life of me, how can radio stations be playing that type of nonsense? Every time that is being repeated. If I am re-elected, she is going to give the young people of Barbados $3,500 to help with the purchase, to help with the mortgage. Now come on, you want to tell me that we that stupid? $3,500. Tell me what $3,500. These are the same young people who the same administration said that they were going to give you land at $4 a square foot. It happened, is it? At $4 per square foot once I am in office. This is the same administration who said that they were going to give all of the young people who work at the gas stations, that they were going to give them boots. You remember that? That they were going to give them clothes, that when the rain fall, that they don't have to be out there in the rain just like that. That they were going to repair the roofs of all of the pensioners in Barbados. That they were going to be the government that was going to remove all the pit toilets in the first 3 years in office. But my friends, what we don't have, we have now two types of pit toilets. The government have placed the lives of Barbadians. You have a pit toilet in your backyard or in your side yard, but also the government of Barbados have now put the lives of Barbadians, the cost of living in Barbadians, the cost of gasoline, the cost of kerosene, the high electricity bills, the high water bills, the government has now placed all of them in a pit toilet. That is where the government has placed Barbadians. So when you begin to see the nonsense, now tell me, my friends, and you, the people of Leadville, we are being charged a sewage tax and a garbage tax. When the Democratic Labour Party, when we implement the solid waste tax, that I said, I want us to think. Don't be in a hurry. I want you to listen, please. I want you to listen. Hear and listen. When we implemented the solid waste tax, the private sector march, the government march, the unions were ready to burn Barbados down. Don't forget that. They wanted to burn the country down. And what is important about the solid waste tax is that the maximum that any Barbadian had to pay for the solid waste tax was $450 a year. $450 a year for solid waste tax. We said that after a year, we were going to remove it from the books because it was to help with the revenue of the country. We were seeing some challenging times. And I want you to remember that the Prime Minister of Barbados at the time, Faridel Jerome Short, said that he was not going to go to the IMF or increase any major taxes unless it was necessary. The Finance Minister, Chris Sinclair, said the same thing. The Cabinet of Barbados agreed, and we were on the same page. And we said it to Barbadians that we were not going to the IMF unless it was necessary. So, we removed the solid waste tax. This government, in its wisdom, implemented the sewage tax. Now tell me, there is no person in Leadville tonight that is hooked up to the sewage system. Not one of you. If any person in Leadville or the surrounding areas can look at me and say, Jetta, I hook up to the sewage system, I will take you down to Lexi's tonight and show you Jesus and his disciples doing like dancing. I'm going to repeat it. If any person in Leadville, Foursquare, Searles, anybody saying to me that they hook up to the sewage system, I am going to take you down to Oystains, carry you by Lexi's, and show you Jesus and the disciples doing like dancing. Okay. But you must understand that the big hoteliers on the South Coast are the ones that using hook up to the sewage system. They are the ones hook up to the system, not you and I. But don't you know that despite you paying that sewage tax, that if your well overflow tonight, if your septic tank overflow tonight, that you cannot call the Barbados Water Authority to pump it, but at the same time, you are paying the Barbados Water Authority a sewage tax. You either have to call Jose, or you have to go at the back of, right in front of you, here at Mangrove, and call Polly to pump off that water, and it may cost you $800 to $1,500, depends on what the situation is. But yet you are paying for a sewage tax that you don't use, now you have no control over. So you know who we are supporting? We are supporting the big hoteliers. So when you hear the management of the Barbados Water Authority say that they are owed millions of dollars, it isn't you or I that owes that money, because all of the persons in Leadville, we pay our water bills. If there's one thing what we do, because we know that the water authority would come and lock off your water for $100, but gonna allow the big hotels and the condominiums on the South Coast to owe the Water Authority $50 and $60 and $70,000 with no lock off. And that is where the Barbados Labour Party, the Barbados Labour Party is about big business and politics. The Prime Minister of this country is about her friends, big business. Now tell me, how on earth there, and I'm talking about lies and deceit. And at some point in time, Barbadians begin to see through the lies and the deceit and the communication propaganda. Come on. That is why I say that no matter where I go in all of these meetings, I am going to repeat this message because it is a conversation. My friends, we have a future to decide. We have a destiny, and that destiny is going to lie within that X on January the 19th. It cannot continue. The Mayor Martley and her administration, under those principles, as I repeated before, has created a monster in Barbados. But we want her to know that we are going to deal with that monster come January the 19th. We are going to behead the monster. She created the monster. We are going to behead it. We're going to behead it. So this whole idea about understanding and loving Barbadians, and Mia cares. Mama Mia cares. If Mama Mia cares, why is the mayor that cares seems to be running, and I repeat it over and over again, seems to be running with the hares. Let me say something to you. The old people always says, and my parents says, Jetta, my son, you cannot run with the hares and hunt with the hounds at the same time. But tell me what she is doing. The Prime Minister is running with the hares on the international scene, trying to get every international award. And while she is running with the hares, she have Barbadians hunting with the hounds. And while we are hunting with the hounds, we are hunting with the hounds in hunger. That is what is happening in the country. So while she is with the hares and getting fat, we are hunting with the hounds on empty stomachs. Come on, people. Come on, people. We have been deceived. But the good book says, be not deceived, because God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that he will also reap. And they have sowed the seeds of discord, deception, and communication propaganda. They would reap it come January the 19th. So when you want to come and tell Barbadians that if re-elected, you are going to literally stop 39,000 households from paying land taxes. 39,000, including the people of Leadville. Re-elect me and no more land taxes. Come on, you could be that stupid to believe that. So when we start to talk about the deception and the communication propaganda, you got to ask yourself, and I am going to talk to you. You ask, where is the money coming from? Where is the money coming from? Where all of a sudden, where is the Prime Minister of Barbados getting all of this money to pay all of these high-paid consultants? And I want you to think, because I have said it at Harlington, I said it in Chapel, I said it at Royce's, at Lynch's, and I'm saying it tonight again, because I said it is a conversation with the public, and it has to be repeated over and over again like a broken record. Don't you know that all prime ministers, and I want you to think, don't you recognize that all of the persons who the Prime Minister hire are attached to the office of the Prime Minister? Everyone. Look good. Every person that the Prime Minister hired is attached to the office of the Prime Minister. Ask yourself why. Let us go through the names. Every consultant, Clyde Maskell, Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. Justin Ram, Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. Kevin Greenwich, Ministry of, all these high-paid consultants, you know, Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. Marsha Cattle, Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. When we start to look and see what is happening, look and see and ask yourself, then recently added to the list is David Ellis, also attached to the Prime Minister's office as a consultant on COVID. Ask why. And you know where it is happening? Every Prime Minister, and I want you to listen to me carefully, every Prime Minister in Barbados, you have an expense account. We do not expect the Prime Minister office to manage its affairs on water. It don't happen. You have to have money for expenses. But how it is done, the way that this Prime Minister has done it, and the careless and indifferent behavior that she has demonstrated to the people of Barbados, that she can hire who she want, do as she like with the taxpayers' money, and we must accept it. Now, with those expenses, with that expense account, the Prime Minister now have a title called professional fees. Professional fees. And in that professional fees, my friend, the Prime Minister have $1,296,000 to pay all of these high-priced consultants. That is why all of them are attached to the Prime Minister's office. And I always say that is why they are attached to the Prime Minister's office. Because she has the account called professional fees. And my friends, I am not going to back away from it. I have said to them that if Jetta Inc. is a liar, if they want to call me out in the press, call me out and do it. Call me out. Say that Jetta is a liar, you get up in Leadville and you try to tell the people lies. Well, my friends, sometimes they says that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Okay. The old people said that you eat the cocoa for the sake of the sauce. And in this, and what I have here in my hand is a document to show that the Prime Minister of Barbados have a professional fees account within the Ministry of Finance, $1,289,000. And if that money runs out, she can go back to Parliament and get what you call more money. You know it's more money? What you hear is a fancy word called a supplementary. Means that she can get more money. Well, let me read it to you. Let me read it to the people in Leadville. I read it to the people in Chapel. I read it to the people in Lynches. I read it to the people at Harlington. I'm going to read it tonight again. That is why I said this is a conversation. This is not a speech. This is a conversation. And we are having a conversation. Listen. It says here big and bold. You ain't got to go big and bold. Prime Minister's office. I'm going to give you the title. The title is item 226, professional fees. This is the page 104. If you want to go and pull up the estimates, you would see 1,296,000. And that is how she is paying all of these persons to do what? To do what? To put a wheel of nothing more than communication propaganda to the people of Barbados. To the people of Barbados. But as I said before, that she is paying her way, and like Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar, in the times of Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar, in the testament of old, how they surround themselves by all of the intelligent persons all of the stargazers. The Prime Minister has now surrounded herself with all of these high-paid consultants, and they have delivered nothing to the people of Barbados. They have delivered nothing to the people of Barbados. But all that we have seen is taxes and more taxes. And you know how I classify them? I classify them as a group of ghosts, goblins, and witches. That is how they are.
Oh, Lord.
That is how they are. A group of ghosts, goblins, and witches. So you are telling me that you can find $15,000. And my friends, it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking that you can find $15,000 to pay these consultants. You can find the money to pay, as I said before, you can find thousands of dollars in fat salaries to pay Pat Paris in the Prime Minister's office, to pay David Ellis as a consultant, to pay Justin Ram, to pay Kevin Greenwich. But you are saying to Barbadians tonight that you cannot find in all of this, you cannot find $250 to add to the salaries of the nurses, to add to the salaries of the police officers. When COVID came to Barbados, our first case of COVID was registered on the 20th of March 2020. Always remember that. That is why I said conversation with you. Reflect, 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 and think, because January the 19th is not going to be the same in Barbados if you allow Mayor Motley and her cabinet to continue to manage the affairs of this country. But she couldn't find it fit. Do you remember, as part of this conversation, let us talk. Do you remember when the first case of COVID came to Barbados, that the Prime Minister held a press conference, and in that press conference, she said that she was going to pay hazard pay to the police officers who put their lives on the line. She says that she was going to pay hazard pay to all of those frontline workers, persons who work in the QEH, persons who work in the geriatric hospital, persons who work in the, what you call the homes, the caregiving homes in Barbados, persons who work in what we call at the statutory corporations like the National Assistance Board. She said that she was going to give them a hazard pay and pay them overtime. You are telling me that on this God-given day, on the 8th of January 2022, that the nurses of Barbados, the healthcare workers, the sanitation workers, the police officers who are at the forefront, that they had to march in order to send a message to the Prime Minister that their care, that they had to march, but you couldn't find $250 in 3 years. $250 in 3 years is $80 a year. And you are telling me that it took all of that, but you can find 15,000, 30,000, 45,000, 50,000 to pay high-paid consultants, but couldn't find as simple as that monies to pay the frontline workers. And that is what we say, Mayor cares. Mayor cares. Where are the monies to repair the roofs of the pensioners? And it is unconscionable. Again, deceit, deception, and communication propaganda. You want to tell me, never in the history of Barbados, despite all of what they have said about the Democratic Labour Party, every financial year, we add $20 to the old age pensions. Every year, every budget year, we gave the old pensioners of Barbados, the old age pensioners, $20. We have not had a budget in Barbados for 3 years. This is the same Prime Minister that got in opposition and crucified the Democratic Labour Party, along with help from the unions, about presenting a budget when budget day passed and it wasn't presented. Now this is 3 years, my friends. 3 years. And that's why I said we're having a conversation. We are having a conversation. But you couldn't produce a budget. But at the same time, you can have $5,000 in the estimates. $5,000 to repair the National Insurance Building. Now, I want you to understand that when I talk about deception, propaganda, deceit, and lies, $5,000 to repair the National Insurance Building. But, and I have the information here again, that if they want to challenge me, if they want to say, well, Jetta, shut up, you're talking nonsense, tell them to come, because I have it here, $5,000 in the estimates, $5,000 to repair the National Insurance Building. You know what happened? They knocked down the National Insurance Building along with the police station, and it is alleged, and they haven't defended what I said. I have said it publicly that they knocked down the police station and the National Insurance Building at a cost of $15 million. I am not talking about building the park, really Freedom Park. I am talking about knocking down those two buildings at a cost of 15 million Barbados dollars when they had $5,000 in the estimates for repairs. And to this date, not one of them has come and made a public statement and denounced or said what I was saying was stupidness, what I was saying was a lie. They have not produced the contract. They have not produced the contract that was awarded to the contractor. And I asked to see the contract. The Prime Minister have not responded. Dale Marshall have not responded. The Minister of Housing, Mr. William Duguid, have not responded. They cannot respond because it is the truth. And you can't find monies to pay. You can't find monies to pay the frontline workers, but you can find $15 million to knock down the old National Insurance Building and the police station. Now come on. And I said to them, come line up and come after me. Because it cannot be business as usual in Barbados again. Cannot be business as usual. So when they talk about the covenant of hope, when they talk about understanding the plight of Barbadians, we thought that we would never live long enough to see that pensioners in Barbados, old age pensioners, went without a pension for the whole month of December. Some of them had to wait until the first week in January, not a penny. Christmas came and Christmas went. New Year's came and New Year's went. And this is the 8th of January, and some pensioners in Barbados did not receive the pensions until after New Year's Day. Come on, people. Come on, people. People of Barbados, I want us to sit back and to think what is happening in this country. I want us to sit back and to look and to ponder and to consider what is happening. Ask yourself, where have we gone wrong, my people? What has happened? So in that plight, when the Prime Minister says that she understands and they were going to answer the housing problems in Barbados, you know what they did? They turned to China. Went to China to answer the housing problems in this country and imported the houses from China. And I have repeated it over and over again that it was an insult to the 3,500 artisans as a result of importing those houses from China, that the houses, those artisans are without jobs tonight. The carpenters are without jobs. The plumbers are without jobs. The electricians are without jobs. The masons are without jobs. Even the simple laborer, as a result of importing houses from China. But you understand, that there's a problem in China with those houses? Some of the largest companies in China that manufacture houses has gone bankrupt. They have gone bankrupt. And what the Chinese government is doing is exporting those houses to countries that the countries would pay the money in US dollars. And when countries like Barbados and all the other CARICOM territories pay those monies in US dollars, it goes back to China to help the sector in China that is now $300 billion in debt. That is what the government of Barbados is doing, aiding and abetting and keeping a housing sector in China prop up, but at the same time keeping the artisans of Barbados on the breadline. But there is a scandal waiting to happen, and I have mentioned this. Now that we have 140, I want you to listen to me carefully. Let us talk. The government imported 140 40-foot containers. 140 40-foot containers. And those containers are now sitting in the industrial park in 6 rows under security that is being paid for, having to pay insurance. And I want you to remember that the Minister of Housing, Mr. William Duguid, on arrival of those containers, he said to the people of Barbados that the containers would be open within 2 weeks after the arrival. We are now January the 8th, and they are struggling to put up even one house. And you know why? I say to you, it is a scandal waiting to happen. And let me tell you what is the scandal. The government now have to go and get the right specification for those houses. You can imagine a government importing houses and don't have the correct specifications on what the houses are. So it is a scandal waiting to happen. A scandal. But the Minister of Housing said the reason why we import them is that they were building the houses too slow and insult to the people of Barbados. So wait for the scandal and insult. So we are paying for houses in China. The specifications are not right. So now we have to incur a double cost. I am saying to you that February is going to come and those containers are still going to be sitting there in 6 rows in that industrial park because it is a major scandal. If you think you have a scandal, wait. Just like we have to deal with the vaccines, when a government can hire a concrete mixer, a plywood trader, a block maker to import vaccines into Barbados, and you have Collins Limited that was around since 1889. You have the procurement department of the government. You have all of these entities, but we decided to go and hire a contractor to bring in vaccines into Barbados. You know what vaccines are? This is the type of government. This is the type of government that we have. This is the government that has delivered us to the IMF. This is the government, and they have to explain to Barbadians why it is that we have borrowed so much money from the IMF. And I'm going to tell you about the IMF. And it is important that we must know and understand what is happening. Barbados balance sheet.
David Eswick, he was always my representative, and he was my representative until he says different.
Yeah, I know David Eswick to be a very good man. I met him personally, and the conversations we had really showed me that he's a man that willing to do for anybody that could help bring up themselves the same way. You understand?
Yes, he's always for the constituents, and he's always for I. He's very vibrant, and again, you can talk to him, you can get assistance from him. He's good for the constituency, for Barbados and for all you.
He used to always look out for the people. Like anytime you get to read, he would never say no. That's one thing for sure I know as growing up. His energy is just a vibe, and I will always vote for you though. And it's always for you, David, always.
I know David for a long time, man. David always around every shop corner, Bretton, Sullenberry, even 6 Rose, or Ebenezer. I never left you out. Give you anything at all. You can't be hungry around Mr. Estwick.
David is a proper man. He's good and he always around the fellows. And he was ever a proper man to the fellows in the Constituency.
Every time he lets you come, David all the time. David all the time. David all the time. David all the time.
I know David from the time he was born. He has always been very progressive, knowledgeable, and caring. I, Keith Allen, is always for you, David.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. David, that's right. Always for you, David. Jesus.
Estwick is a real proper man. He was a man of his word. I went forward with it, you understand?
There's so much to say about David. Mr. Estwick looked up for the constituents in terms of providing employment for the youngsters.
The years he ran, he ended up doing some of my cricket team. He sponsored us for like 3 years or whatever. Every time he's been, he doubled the money or whatever, give us a party. He do a lot for children.
I'm glad he's back. He do a lot for us in Chapel Land St. Philip, and I appreciate what he did. He helped my daughter with my son at work. He helped my children, right? And I was glad for that.
I don't even see my current representative. I don't even know who representing us all right now.
St. John Kane and Power, we didn't see him at all.
Then Mr. Estwick was in. All I know, Estwick, I still been seeing Estwick around the community, learning and socializing with the constituents, giving advice.
David Estwick, always for me and the people of Barbados.
Always for you.
And I can let you know no straight too. He don't just say. He's a man of his word, and he always there for you. Day right.
Well, David Estwick is a very nice gentleman. He comes around and socializes with everyone, the young, the old, everybody he does socialize with.
I met David in 2007 when he was Minister of Economic Affairs. He gave me a grant, and honestly I was very thankful.
David Estwick don't leave out people, don't matter what. I had a couple months there, my feet was hurting me, and my son called him, and David Estwick come right down by me and check my feet and told me I will get back to you. And he did get back to me, and he brings some medication for me. And look, right now we're walking good. I don't want a doctor no more, because he come and assist me. A very good man. Don't want a better person than him.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Biggity. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. St. Philip people know this is true. Estwick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Estwick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen of the constituency of St. Philip West. It is a pleasure to be once again in this constituency it is where I can say to you that I cut my political teeth in terms of speaking on a political platform right there in Rock Hall in St. Philip. And many of you would know me from my close association with David for many years, and of course from managing several of his successful campaigns. And arising out of that success for David has been the success of the people of St. Philip West, because David has always ensured that once he is in a position, and he has been for at least 15 years, but once he is in a position to assist and to help to develop this constituency, he has never let this constituency down. I can attest to that. I am not a resident of this constituency, but I worked at least for 8 years with David as his personal assistant from when he was in the ministry, first appointed as the Minister of Health. He later went to the Ministry of Economic Affairs, and he last settled as the Minister of Agriculture and Water Resources. Indeed, David's tenure in these ministries, in the last administration, has been marked by success. And that success can be seen not only in the physical development of this country in terms of providing clean potable water to those places which previously had none, or in his development of the agricultural industry, but indeed his success can also be seen through you, the constituents of St. Philip West, who have found opportunities within both the Ministry of Agriculture as a central ministry and its various departments ranging from the BADMC and so on, as well as in the Waterworks department. But that is David at the national level, and that is David as the man that he is. He's a man who is keen to share his successes not only with the entire country through the utilization of his skills, but also share with you the residents of the constituency of St. Philip West. And I say to you that once given that opportunity again, that David will not fail this constituency as the current representative has so done. And while we're on that topic, I will just simply say a few words on the current representative, and that is simply to say that having been given the opportunity in May 2018, no one, far less that representative, seemed not to recognize the very big shoes which he was asked to step into. And once having stepped into those very large shoes, he immediately recognized that he could not only fill those shoes, but when he attempted to walk in them, that they kept falling off of his feet. And it was just simply a matter of short time before John King abandoned his post as a representative for the constituency of St. Philip West. Indeed, it never ceased to amaze me that each time I drive up that Marshfield Road on what is also known as Highway 7, that constituency office was either closed or when it was open, you could not see anyone at all gracing its doors. And that said something to me. That said to me that either the people of St. Philip West really did not vote for that representative, or that they either did not know where his office was. But at least within 2 months of having been elected to the constituency of St. Philip West, John King immediately abandoned office. And like his leader's name, I will use the acronym MIA, John King was missing in action. And he was so missing in action that the Prime Minister had no choice but to remove him from that constituency to save further embarrassment. But we now know why he was moved. And he was removed to make way for one of the Prime Minister's close friends and allies, who purports to have, well, I can't say purport because it is a fact that she has family in this constituency, in St. Patrick's. But even though being born in St. Patrick's, she is not from among the people of this constituency. And I dare say to you that come the 19th of January, that the people of St. Philip West need to send that lady back to whence she came. Oh Lord! Now, as I mentioned before, David has ensured that he has shared every available opportunity to residents of St. Philip West. He has done the best that he could with the resources that he had to ensure that you, the constituents, benefit from the type of infrastructural development in this constituency. And one prime example of that, of course, is that Marshfield Village Road. And that is one side. But I also know that there were plans to rehabilitate this same road that we're here on, particularly to the east, where there is a cave-in, and off to the west that has suffered a similar occurrence. And it's just simply the intervention of that election and the subsequent defeat of the government that has prevented David from doing such things. And you can rest assured, being a man of his words, that when given the opportunity again, that David will waste no time in addressing those two issues and the general rehabilitation and development of the many roads that have fallen into disrepair in this constituency, and in particular this district of Leadville. Now, I am here to speak in support of David. But I should also inform you that with David's encouragement, with his blessing and his assistance, I too have cast my hat into the political ring to contest the seat on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party in the constituency of St. Philip South. And indeed, I know I can rest assured of the support of David and many of his constituents with whom I've had a very long and fruitful relationship, and I look forward to them crossing over the border and doing what they do best, and that is to encourage their friends, their family, their relatives, and so on, to cast their votes come the 19th of January in support not only of David Eswick, but in support of myself, Neil Marshall, and of course we go further north to Michael Lashley in St. Philip North, so that these three constituencies of St. Philip return to their rightful home with the Democratic Labour Party. We in this constituency must always appreciate that we are seen as one family and that the divisions among us are merely artificial. And David's success is my success. And my success is David's success and Michael's success. And Michael's success is the success of us all. And so I ask you all to continue to repose your confidence in David as you once did before. In May 2018, other persons asked for an opportunity. They said, give me a chance. One of them said, give me the vote and watch me. And you came out in your numbers, and you saw no harm in giving David a rest, because you knew that he, as your MP, had worked tirelessly on your behalf, and you gave him a rest in what we all expected would have been a 5-year rest. But having had the vote, and having said, give me the vote and watch me, we sat and we watched. And we sat and we watched. And we continued to sit and we watched. And before we could raise our voice to express our disappointment at what was going on, the same person who asked for you to give me the vote and watch me pulled up stumps and said to you, I don't think I can go any further. You gave me the vote, you watched me, and I have delivered nothing. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is now incumbent upon each of you to come 6 o'clock in the morning on the 19th, on Wednesday the 19th of January, to go in your numbers. I ask you to get everyone up in your household, call your friends, call your family, and go to that polling station to which you've been assigned, and to cast your X with that pencil firmly in that box right next to the name of Dr. David Cleveland Eswick, and make sure that come in the wee hours, in the late hours of January the 19th, or the wee hours of January the 20th, that the returning officer for the constituency of St. Philip West can declare Dr. David Cleveland Eswick as the duly elected representative for the constituency of St. Philip West. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. Do have a good night.
Wooshoo! Wooshoo! Biggity. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West want. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. St. Philip people know this is true. S-Wick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs, he helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. S-Wick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Who say Philip Westwick? David S-Wick. Biggity. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West want. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. St. Philip people know this is true. S-Wick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick?
I have the privilege to present to you the next representative of St. Philip West, Dr. David Eswick, a man that have been tried and tested, an individual that is focused and committed. Focused and committed. His track record as a representative cannot be challenged. So I am pleased, my friends, very pleased to present to you my long-standing colleague within the Democratic Labour Party. We have walked the trenches, we have fought the battles, and you are not going to be disappointed. And allow your vote to speak for good representation, a man, as I said, who is committed and focused. Dr. David Eswick, next representative, without a doubt, for St. Philip West.
Let me say a pleasant good evening to everyone in Leadville, all of those people in Mayfair Terrace, and all those people in Coverley Stage 1, and also in our new development to the left of us, and if my voice may carry as far as Coverley Stage 1 up on the hill. It is indeed a distinct honor and pleasure to stand before you, the people of Leadville, this evening. I stand before you again this evening because I have confidence, and I believe that you, the people of Leadville, know that if there's one thing that I have always done, is that I was a person that the people about here would see almost every week or every 2 weeks. And I feel that I can stand on my record of an individual that has offered himself to serve, and I don't dodge boat and hide boat. I serve by making myself available and always be prepared to engage people. I don't run, I don't hide from people. I engage the best way that I can. And I want to say to you this evening that I offer myself to you one more time, and I can only hope, and I ask you to give me your support. But I don't want to just come and say to you, look, give me your support, and that is just that. I want to tell you why I believe that you should consider me as your next representative as opposed to the person who is the candidate against me for this constituency. And the first reason I'm going to say to you is this. One, I was defeated in the last general election. But even during that defeat and after that defeat, I considered my representation of people to be important enough that I did not stop coming around and engaging the people in the constituency as often as I could have. In fact, I supported almost every single small business operation and kept supporting people with respect to their own personal requirements. I'm a man that believes in privacy as a medical doctor for a lot of years, and I ain't gonna talk about nobody business. So you're not going to hear from me what I give to this body, what I did or what I did not do. I ain't going down that road. The fact is, those matters will work out on their own. But I want to, before I speak to you on two issues that has come out strongly in this constituency, those two issues are inflation, rising prices, that is making it extremely hard for you to survive every single day. After you pay your light bill, after you pay your water bill, after you pay your telephone bill, you barely got enough money to buy 2 biscuits and sardines. And this government sits down on a day-to-day basis with 5 or 6 economic consultants that don't seem to understand that when your people are suffering and hurting, it is the government that must stand up and protect them and support them by whatever means necessary. And I am going to go through that, what we can do, and also I will speak to you about unemployment that is ravishing the young people in this constituency and across Barbados. But before I get to that, I want to deal with a couple of parochial issues. And I want to remind Barbadians tonight, because it was the great Sir Grantley Adams that said Barbadians have short memories. And as a result, I may have to remind people tonight about some things that happened in this constituency here when I was representative. And I would say this. Most of you would recall that the fellows in this area used to play their football and matches on the playing field next door there. And I remember at the time Reginald Farley was the representative. When I came to be representative for this area, we tried our best to secure a playing field for the residents in this area, because you had to go all the way up to St. Patrick's now. Don't call God and water school and use that playing field. Lo and behold, in about a year or 2 years while I was representative, I was informed that instead of the Barbados Labour Party at the time compulsorily acquiring the land to make sure that it stayed as an area of recreation for the residents, it was then given permission to cut up and put in a housing development that is there. I don't have a problem with people having a home. So I don't want the residents there to cuss me and say they should not have no place to live. That is not what I'm saying. What I did in response, and the residents in this area can remember this very well, I brought tongue and country planning up here. I brought the NHC up here. I met with the Kinch family who own all the land out there. And we came to an agreement that we were going to compulsorily acquire the land to the left, to the right of me. That property down there in front of all the residents here, to turn into a playing field for the people of this area and so on and this way. And furthermore, many of the people who live in this area, their children do not have any private secondary school to go to. Most of them cannot fit at Princess Margaret School. They had to be spread all out around Barbados. We decided that we were going to construct a new secondary school on the lines given to Sir's Plantation that would then have allowed not only people in this zone, their children would have a modern secondary school, they would have had a massive playing field to carry out your day-to-day recreation. But you know what? The BLP came to office and shut down all of that. So I don't know what they're going to come and tell you. I don't know what they're going to come and tell you, but that is the fact of life. And many of the residents but will remember when I met right in front there with all them people that I just tell about. Because I get into all the law and tell lies. I can soon dead, but I can lie about now. Oh Lord! Bring it down, brats. Lord have mercy. Look, let me dig in to these two critical problems that I feel need urgent attention. And I'm going to be very deliberate this evening, because I may put on a hat more of a teacher than a politician. But that don't mean that I ain't going to drop a lash on a man now and again. There are two major problems facing you, the people in this constituency, and Barbados in general. Those two problems are high youth unemployment, as well as rapidly increasing prices on a day-to-day basis that is causing most Barbadians to have a challenge taking care of their day-to-day business. Let me deal with this whole notion of the inflation first. Look, Barbados imports 85% of all of the goods that we eat in this country. 85%. The reason why we import 85% is because everybody out here know that when the economy was being shifted away from sugarcane plantations, we went from the production of sugar to the production of houses on the sugarcane plantations instead of the production of food. And what ended up happening as a result of that? The economy was adjusted so that Barbados then became not an economy led by sugar production, but by tourism, manufacturing, and international business. So when we made that transition, it meant that all of a sudden, you can only earn your keep if the people in a way can come to Barbados. The day that you have a crisis in England, a crisis in America, a crisis in any country, and they may come in here to spend the money, God help all of us, economy shut down. You see that? I am telling you that we have to turn that around. And because of that, and the fact that we import 85% of what we consume, when the prices increase overseas, there's nothing we can do about it. We got to take the increased prices and hope to the God that we can survive. That is what the Barbadian Labour Party is telling you. There is nothing that they can do about it. And I am telling you tonight, absolute rubbish. Let me tell you what I propose. Because the inflation that is imported into Barbados is out of our control, what we must be able to do is not to concentrate on adjusting the prices of the goods coming into Barbados, because we can't do that. We can adjust the taxes applied onto the goods in Barbados so that the price increases are not as intolerable. So when I hear a government telling you that you can't do nothing about it, and you got people in Barbados who must remember that this is the same government that put 40-cent tax increase, excise tax on diesel and on gasoline and also on kerosene. Lord, you need to understand that when you have an excise tax on diesel, on top of that tax comes value-added tax. That is the reason why most people in the country and businesses in the country engage in transportation, and their normal domestic production is being compromised because the government refused to make the adjustments in regards to the excise taxes and the value-added tax and the duties in regard to specific products that every poor man and poor woman and people in the middle class now use. But you know what? Makers. And I know if she truly cared about you, those adjustments would have been made. Let me tell you how this can be done. And I stand before you with some experience. I was spokesperson of opposition in the opposition for finance from 2003. I was Minister of Economic Planning and Development, Trade, Industry and Commerce, and Small Business Development. Let me tell you tonight how I intend, if you repose your confidence in me again, how I will solve this problem for you. And you can then tell them, a strict says so. None of them can challenge me. None of them. No one to none of them. They couldn't challenge me when I was battling Oinatha in 2008. I told you they can't challenge me now. I'm much stronger now than when I was in that period of time. Now, let me tell you how to do it. Let us be intelligent here. I got a cup here. And the cup got in some diesel. When you import any product in Barbados, it comes through one of the ports in Barbados. So it either come through Bridgetown Port or airport. When the product lands with a price attached to it. We call that the cost, insurance, and freight. See, you have done on the fancy term. All it means is that it is the landed price of the product at the port. If you have a problem where inflation is pushing the price of the product landed in Barbados, and I like to give an example. Suppose the product landed at $5. That's the landed price. Next month, the price went from $5 to $25. And that's before you put on any duties at all. There's a landed price. The $20 increase is now being passed on to you in addition to the value-added tax and excise tax on top of that. The way to manage that and control the increase in the prices is to do this. If the price of the cup went from $5 to $25, then the increase is $20. What you need then to do is to recognize that the way to handle that is to decrease your excise tax and VAT and duties equivalent to $20 increase so that the price pass-through is zero. Net rates, puppets, clunks. And the loss of $20, that is the subsidy that the government would now have. You know how that? Because somebody can say, well, it's right. But the government just lost $20 to Longbert. The government has a way of getting $20 borrowed from the Central Bank of Barbados and put that loan that you get from the Central Bank and do it with what is known as medium to long-term treasury, and it can stay there at the Central Bank. But you are sorting out the problem, taking the pressure off of the poor people. That is what government is about, and that is what government should do. And the way I would manage this is that I would make sure that we form something called a cost management committee. The cost management committee will be made up of the private sector. That is the Private Sector Association, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the government. What they are going to require is to have consultations amongst themselves to come up with a basket of goods that we need to protect in regards to rapid movement of prices that will affect and harm small businesses and the average Barbadian man and woman. Whenever the prices move to a certain level, that will, shut up, Droma, rest yourself. Don't confuse me now, man. Look, the reality is very simple. When you get a situation with that committee, the committee will determine a basket of goods that everybody in Barbados would use. And what you would do is that in that basket of goods, you will look at the movement of the price. When you get to a stage where the price moves to a point where the price can impact on the cost of living in such a way that the average Barbadian and businessman can't act, the government will trigger the mechanism that I'm now telling you about. And as a result, we would have a mechanism that becomes a mechanism to be triggered every time we are faced with this type of inflationary spiral in regards to prices skyrocketing in the country because of increases in overseas oil prices, overseas gasoline prices, diesel prices, and generally energy prices and food. So what I'm showing you is that you cannot accept that the government is saying there's nothing that you can do. I just showed you how it can be managed, how it can be handled, and how it can be triggered every single time there's a crisis in the country with inflation. See? But you know, you got Avinash Prasad. Here he is a consultant. You got some other body named Ram. I know he's a Ram goer over. You got the consultant for the IMF, a very good friend of mine, Dr. Kevin Greenwich. And then we got my other real friend, I was his deputy leader of the opposition, the man Maskell, that is called him Mallet without teeth, Askell. And all of them sitting down out there, before they sit down and put their minds together and come up with the sort of things that I am telling you that we need to do. Creating mechanisms that you can trigger a response every single time prices get to a certain stage to take the pressure off of you. Oh, they're struggling every day to pay like bill, water bill, telephone bill, and food. But you know what? I'm waiting for them, you know. Because I expect one to come and attack me. As though SCA know he's saying, I am not a talk economist. That's what everybody used to call them. I understand the application of economics to lives. Human being lives. I don't deal with mathematical numbers. I can do that too. I understand econometrics to do if I want to do it. But I know that all economics come down to how you make the people's lives better. And if you are an economist and you cannot improve the lives of people, what is your value? Stand by university and make models. Stand by university and produce equations. So I'm waiting for them. I poke in them. Let her come. Let her come from Eswick. Let her come, you know. And I am looking forward to it. God is my shepherd. I shall not want tonight. So, I am waiting. But let me go on now to the other issue that is hurting most Barbadians. That is unemployment. Yes. Is water. Yeah. It is unemployment. Unemployment amongst the youth in this country. I am indeed very, very, very concerned. Every place I have gone in this constituency so far, the song that's coming back to me is Eswick boy, Mike's son ain't got no work. My daughter ain't got no work. I got two in here, we ain't got no work. And so on and so on. And you know what? I had to ask myself, look, what is the duty of a government? If it is not to create employment for the people. And you must understand why we continue to go around this vicious cycle all the time. Whenever there's a recession, look what happens, the IMF comes in. What's the first thing the IMF tell you to do? Send more people. Cut your wages, wage bill, salary bill. So send more people from statutory corporation, send more people from government. Then they proceed and they tell you, cut your pensions. They proceed and tell you, cut your wages and salaries. They go on to tell you, all of the government services you got to pay more for. And they go on to tell you, and that's why the election had to be called, because when you read the last IMF report, they're telling the present government, you need to stop borrowing so much money. And you got to start going back to what you were supposed to do in regards to sending home people and raising taxes and also raising services. You know the first thing they did when they came to office? They said, And it is repeated, and I can show you the documentation in the next meeting. The woman said, you can't tax your way out of a recession. She said, Chris Segler, we don't know what you're doing. We had the people, we were taxing the people to death. And as soon as they came to office, I don't blame her. I blame the idiotic advisors that are advising her. I don't blame her. Because she doesn't understand this type of developmental economics. I don't blame her. I blame the puppets that they employ. You understand? Look. Try to understand what I'm trying to explain to you, and they're going to bring it right back to jobs. If every time the IMF is telling you to downsize your economy, and in downsizing your economy, what the IMF is doing is impoverishing you. Because they're taking away your pension, they're taking away your salary, they're taking away your job opportunities, they are forcing you to do one thing, borrow money from them that you're going to pay back. And then on top of that, when they introduce all of that for you, and the economy shrinks, please tell me how in the midst of austerity, when the economy is shrinking, that you can get investment to grow the economy. A flawed policy. Flawed policy. Now, if as a result of their action, you send home people from the statutory corporations, you send home people from government. In 2019, 2,000 people were sent home. And that union, the BWWWW, and the NUPWWW said it was all right to send home 2,000 people. Sometimes you only had one breadwinner in the house and at home. You decimate poor people. And that happens because there's a lack of ingenuity and understanding as how to manage your fiscal affairs and not have to go cap in hand to the IMF, IDB, CDB, Latin America Development Bank, and the new boy on the block, China. Now, let me tell you how this relates now to employment. Because when the 2,000 people were sent home in 2019, 2020, right after that we had COVID. And in regards to that, and the number of people were sent home, 40,000 people were on the blood of my business. 40,000. Now, if you have a country where 40,000 people are unemployed, it is the responsibility of the government to provide working opportunities for the people of the country. That is what they're there for. Because you can't get it any other way. The private sector shut down. The international arena shut down. So if you can't turn to the government, why are they there? You tell me. And what they don't seem to understand, that I am not being critical of some of the jobs that they have provided. I am critical of how the type of jobs and what they did. Give me an example. Everyone in you here, man. When you walk about, we see these young men and women on the road reading. I ain't got no problem with these people being given a little berry to go home. But what is wrong with what you're doing is that you don't even see it fit to go and rent a container toilet and put it there for the men and women to use You got women out there, they get in the bush to relieve themselves. Man, win in 1944. What nonsense are we doing? And then you turn around and you refuse to bring these people on as employees and you're paying no NIS for them. You're treating these people as contractors. That is wrong. That is wrong. I will show them, I guarantee you, when we have our national lunch, a strategy to solve that problem. And for me, a job is important to your dignity. If you don't have a job that you can take care of yourself and your family, then the only place that you can go is welfare or be on the street. So it is the government's responsibility to make sure that there are the buttress and bulwark when an economy turns down and the private sector is downsizing and sending more people. It is the only government that you can stand up on. And I can put it this way. My fear is that, don't take my advice, go and read the last IMF Article 4 consultation where the IMF tell them the things they got to do. That's why she called the election so early. 18 months early in the middle of a pandemic that can kill almost everybody in Barbados. But you're going to be half a clown. And the reason for that is the sort of measures that need to be put on your backs in addition to the suffering that you're not going through. You know, I'm a scientist, so I like to start facts. Don't listen to what I tell you. Go and Google the latest IMF Article 4 consultation in Barbados. Oh, Lord. Damn think they can fight somebody about that matter. You intelligent people, go read it yourselves, man. Look, everybody in Barbados can get a job as a clerk. Everybody in Barbados can get a job as a technician. Everybody in Barbados can get a job as an engineer, a pharmacist, a doctor, whatever. You must have a spread of opportunities for all. Let me say, therefore, that one of the strategies that I intend to articulate most fervently is a strategy that Dr. Avanas Prasad came out about 2 months ago and made a batch of. He was trying to talk about universal basic income. That is, everybody in the country will get a basic salary from the government that the government will pay to them, whether you're working or not, whether you're middle class or not, whether you're upper middle class or not, whether you're wanted or not. But I have to tell you, man, my man, there's something called a distributive effect. So if you have money and you're giving it to half of the country who don't need it, but you take away money from the people below who don't need it, you pop it. And on top of that, with respect to the distributive effect, a universal basic income would bankrupt Barbados. Let me give you an example, man. And I like numbers. Right now, this thing called the reverse tax credit. I think the reverse tax credit is $1,300 a year. Nobody in Barbados can live comfortably on $1,300 a month, even. So if you were to use the basic reverse tax credit and multiply that on a monthly basis, and then multiply that by 287,000 people in Barbados, you know what it will cost the government? $3.7 billion be bankrupt, all we did. They don't know what they're saying. And then the other strategy that I believe is a wiser strategy is this. If you now spend $27 million on welfare services, so you're taking $27 million and you're giving it out to people who are not working, and that is how they support themselves and they live. Pray tell me, wouldn't it not be better, instead of giving them welfare dollars to stay home and do nothing, that you employ them in government and pay them to help produce goods and services in the country, expand the economic activity in the country, and as a result, the government get more taxes that they can drive over the economic activity. That is the basic framework that we need to use, and we need to expand it to make sure that all able-bodied Barbadians are not given money to stay home. If you give a man enough money that he does not have to work and he can spend and live good, you think he can work? The United States just went through that. And the United States had, after COVID or during COVID, a program where they were sending money to every house, child welfare support, and a whole other support. You know what happened? Inflation is now ravishing America and the whole world. Because the people who were getting the money that they can live on every day refuse to go back to work. Why should you go to work when money coming to you home and you ain't going to do nothing for it? The result of that is that the supply side of the economy, what that means is, if people are working, producing goods and services, well then obviously the amount of goods and services in the economy going to be reduced, and the demand going to be greater than the supply, and you got massive inflation. I mean, take rocket science, well, basic arithmetic. And this is the reason why my thesis would be to support giving people the work as employees attached to government and paid, or you develop the traditional program, which is you can have job attachments for those persons with skills to manufacturing companies, attach them to the BADMC to grow food, attach them to the BAMC to be productive. So it's not about giving them money to stay home. Give them employment to produce and increase the economic activity of the country, and the government will get more and more taxes to drive that. But if you don't do that, two problems: inflation, and if you give them the money without them working, even worse, inflation. So none of them can come in and challenge me on a theoretical basis of what I'm talking about. I know what I'm saying. And I am telling you, I know I'm right. And I am simply saying to the people of Leadville and surrounding districts that this is the way to go. And if I am put in a position where I have the authority to manage the finance and economic affairs and investment affairs of this country, I will be able to transform this old-time way of doing things to make sure that we can further develop this country along modern lines. Can you imagine in Barbados? We know gasoline is sold at $3.98 per liter. Do you understand? Like, that's $4. That is $12 a gallon. $12 a gallon! Can you imagine? Trinidad and Tobago, sells their gasoline at $1.60. $1.60. And this government maintains a high excise tax and a high VAT, even though that is the differential that is undermining the competitiveness of this country, because energy is the fundamental engine that drives economic activity. No economic activity can occur without electricity. No business can occur without diesel. No business can occur without gasoline to move people. And that is why I say to you all, ladies and gentlemen, it is the state that must now be the bulwark during this difficult time. And I don't know why I'm not seeing that response. I graduated as a medical doctor in 1995, well, a long time ago, yeah. And I stopped practicing medicine when we won the government in 2008. And I say all that to say this. After that and the experiences I've accumulated in time on the political front, I'm at the stage of my life where I don't have to lie to nobody in this world. I old enough now to call it the way I see it and to tell you the truth. So you're not going to have a representative that's going to tell you A today and going to do B tomorrow. That is not who I am and not who I will ever be. I'm not going to be that. But I know, and I am very sorry for my friend John King. I am very sorry. There's a man who sang this song about the skipper. And the skipper. And I didn't understand why a man that I grew up with, a man that his mother in Kingsland used to give me all of my pots and pans for every luncheon, he could go there with people who don't like it. And then, as soon as he got in, me decide, I can bring back my good friend from Canada. I mean, she I want. I wonder what she got that he ain't got. I don't know them things. I am not a malicious man. But what I know is this. John King was the duly elected representative and I lost the election, but I am a man, not a mongoose. Every single boxer gets knocked down and lose fights. Every politician lose a political battle. I accepted it with dignity and respect. But I said to him, stop being a boy in the yard. Stop being a puppy dog in the yard fool. That is not who St. Philip people are. And I said to him, John, pray tell me and explain this one to me, man. How come in 3.5 years or 4 years, they could not do anything for you in St. Philip West? Nothing. Not fix a road. Not provide no sort of social services at all. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? It is such a sad state of affairs that as soon as John King jumped ship and was pushed out the ship, the next 3 weeks, the Barbarians of the body sent equipment to repair the road down in St. Gladys. They could not send equipment to do that for him in 3.5 to 4 years when he was represented. What I tell you, they undermine the man, they mess up the man. They went down and got his way and did the same thing. And Red Cross out there saw a trail road. I had the trail road more than 90% finished by the last election. Soon as John King back down, the BLP start walking and built 2 roads for a person who was only nominated as a candidate. They didn't do it for the duly elected representative. So that, I don't respect that rubbish. You see, he did it for me. Because every day I will cast spiral all in there. They don't worry with me with that because nobody can disrespect me like that. I was voted for by the people. The people voted me and nobody in no party will treat me as though I'm a boy in the yard and forgot rid of the cock.
Oh, Lord, Lord.
That's not going to happen with the man in David Smith. You can rest assured that. But I feel sorry for him in that. But it is not for me to manage the affairs of the other side. My job is to concentrate on the Democratic Labour Party and on my offering of myself to you to represent your interests. The reason why I think that I have a record that can be compared to John's, Kay McConney has no record. She has one in Canada. Therefore, my mother always said to me, son, you know where you got, but you know where you can get. So the ball is going to be in your court when it comes January the 19th to make a decision. But while I heard the generator in the back, I want to deal very quickly because there's a wrap-up times that we have been given the COVID issue. In fact, let me make a statement about the COVID matter. I have an issue, a real problem. And I mean it from the fact that I understand the importance of your protocols. I understand the importance of vaccinations. I understand the importance of boosters. I also understand that there are certain fundamental and inalienable rights that every human being has. I remember being a doctor working in the medicine ward. I was then Dr. Henry Fraser's, I think it was his registrar. And I would have to deal with Jehovah's Witness people who don't want no blood. I had to deal with other people who don't want to take this and to take that. And in addition to that, when I put down a treatment plan in the hospital for the nurses to follow, a patient can sign themselves out the hospital and go home. Because they have a right, it is their bodies to make determinations about their own interests. So what I'm saying to you is that I understand the national mandate to maintain an economically viable country. And I believe very strongly on two fronts. I signed and recited the Hippocratic Oath. Do no harm. It is not my responsibility if in October last year there was another law passed called the Employee Prevention, the Employee Prevention of Discrimination Act. I had to jerk the old brain a little bit, you know. The Employee Prevention of Discrimination Act. You know what it said? It said, I who passed it, the Democrat Labour who passed it, it was passed under the BLB. It said essentially that, and I paraphrase, that an employer could not force an employee to take a medical procedure without their formal consent. You pray tell me, how could that be passed as law when we were in office in 2015 we passed something called the Shaw Act, Safety and Health at Work Act, which says that an employer must provide a safe working environment for his employees. Those two pieces of legislation are conflicting. But these people don't understand law. So you can't tell the employer that you must follow the law and provide a safe working environment for employees. He will take that to mean that to have a safe working environment, you must be vaccinated to come in there. And that's what's going on. How can you then juxtapose that with the other act that tells you, the employee, that nobody can discriminate against you or force you to take any medical treatment? And that would be discriminatory. These people really don't know what they're doing. And I can only say to you, as someone who respects the medical fraternity, that my personal advice, and I do this to everybody who I engage in, is to be vaccinated, to take your boosters, etc. But I am not going to send out no lynching or no police to lock up nobody who may have a different view under our Constitution in terms of their defined rights. You got to be very careful here, because there's something called the state paternalism, where the states sometimes believe they can protect national security issues, and as a result they can tell you what you need to do. The point I am making is that is all right, but you got other pieces of legislation that you got to fix first. If you don't fix it first, you create more chaos, and that's exactly what's happening. You see, so you will have to make your decision on the 19th. And all politics come down to this. Don't mind all the fancy stuff. And all economics come down to this. Economics does not bring morality to it. So economics is not about right and wrong. Economics is not about just and unjust. Economics is about efficiency in an economy. It is about scarcity in an economy applied in an efficient, managed in an efficient way. Because of that, it is all right for the advisors of the now Prime Minister to be talking about fiscal deficit and all of the economic metrics. Sound good, fulfill all of them, make the IMF feel good. Oh, we're meeting all the targets, but your people suffering. Your people can't eat. Your people don't know how they're going to spend the money and survive the next day. I believe very strongly that the balance must necessarily be had, so that we can make sure that our economic system always put people at the center of development, not economic theory or econometrics or numbers. And if I were wrong, you look around Barbados now and you tell me if the people of this country is suffering morning, noon, and night to pay the bills. And the government refuse to manage their tax policy in such a way to give these to the people who need it most. And the next time I get to speak in Barbados, I am going to explain to you the pension crisis in this country, that most of you going to hold your heads in shame and be concerned as to whether you will ever get a pension in Barbados when the time comes. And I know someone would have read recently the actuarial report between 2015 and 2018, but that ain't got into damage done in the NIS by COVID. That was the actuarial review between 2015 and 2018. When you add the damage that was done there, when government took away $1.6 billion in NIS investments, that means that $1.6 billion in cash that NIS never have. They're not going to get that. with the operating balance of the NIS by the same report, most are negative by 2028. How far is from now? And all they were able to do is recapitalize by a loan of $120 million that the central bank had to take up. The severance payments fund and the unemployment fund. I can go into this and show Barbadians why it is that the election had to be called so early. Because the things that are going to be coming, you ain't gonna like. You ain't gonna like. And I can explain them one by one. In fact, my mother told me before she died, son, they say you was keep that much noise. I said, Mommy, I know that's true sometimes. She told me, look, she was a nurse at the hospital. And she promised me to promise her that I can calm down and I am going to deliver myself with much less passion and things like that, you know. But I'm trying to do it sometimes, but sometimes I gotta raise the tempo a little bit when it becomes necessary. So my next speaking is going to be in Britain. And this is going to be on the bigger meetings. I want you to come, and I'm going to carry you through the risk to your pensions in Barbados under this administration by the debt restructuring approach that they use. And I'm going to show you what could have been done to make sure that the NIS was not devastated in the way that it was. And then after the debt restructuring, the damage done to the national insurance scheme with respect to when you got 40,000 people unemployed. And when I put the information out to you, well then you will make your own decisions as to whether you want to continue with the administration that continues to make those types of blunders, broad blunders in terms of macroeconomic management. So ladies and gentlemen, I see my other colleague is here, and we have certain specific times to wrap up. And I would want to take this opportunity to welcome my good friend, Anthony Wood. Woody, Daddy, and my daddy all worked together at Four Square Factory. And when we were little boys, his brother Oswald was my closest friend. And I always remember this. And Woody will remember his biggest brother was my brother Buck's close friend. And his sisters were close to my sister Janice, etc. So people need to understand, our friendship is built on a relationship that politics has nothing to do with. We stand for what we think is right. And we believe very strongly, David, that what's happening is wrong. And as a result, this man has decided to come out and say what he knows is wrong. And what it is that you must now not allow us to cross this particular line in Barbados. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your listening. And I want to thank you for your support tonight. And I want to ask you on the 19th to go out there and put Barbados first. You don't have to like me. I don't care about that. What I am concerned about, people that say, no, like, yeah, you don't do nothing. I am concerned about listening to the politics and what I'm telling you about the economics and the development of the country and how to handle that. Make your decisions on that. Don't make it on personality. And I'm confident with an educated country that we will be successful. So ladies and gentlemen, I now hand this platform over to my good friend and comrade Anthony Wood, one of the brightest economic brains in the region. He has won almost the major prizes in economics and those matters at the university. He's very shy. He doesn't talk much about these matters.
but this is a man with a brilliant brain and brilliant capability. Anthony, over to you, my brother.
The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David and Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. The hour is getting late relative to when we have to close. I don't have the luxury that I had last night over at chapel to speak at length and to deliver some pretty useful information, which I implored you to take away and share with your friends. That address lasted about an hour and a half last night. But tonight I have 20 minutes or so. But let me start at this point. We must still be asking ourselves very much, what could possess our Prime Minister to call a snap election and to do it in the middle of a pandemic? When you search for those answers and you come up with credible, plausible reasons why the election was called in the middle of a pandemic and well ahead of time, 18 months or so before time, you have to tell yourself that there is cause for great concern. You can say many things about Mayor Motley. I suppose most of what you say may be right. But the one thing that you cannot say about Miss Motley is that she doesn't think politically and that she doesn't treat every political action in terms of a game. And there aren't many reasons why a Prime Minister will call a snap election. And there aren't many reasons either why it will be done in the middle of a pandemic. I said last night that for a Prime Minister to do that to the people in Barbados, knowing that COVID is rampant, that would have to be the demonstration of a great degree of selfishness, recklessness, and lawlessness combined. But let us start by examining what are the couple reasons why this madness, or what appears to be madness to us, and have S-Wick and myself and Lashley and all the other candidates bringing you out night after night now, thank God it's a short election, risking your life in order to acquire information which places you in a good position to make a decision come January the 19th. Ms. Motley, as a justification for calling this snap election in the middle of a pandemic, told you that tough decisions have to be taken. I mean, we didn't have to wait for Ms. Motley to tell us that tough decisions have to be taken. Tough decisions were taken just after the election on the 24th of May 2020. The first tough decision that was taken was the mini budget that was brought. The mini budget that was brought having lambasted the Democratic Labour Party, that you cannot tax your way out of a recession. So when I have to, the good thing about being a student of history or liking history is that you could reflect in a fairly contemporary way, or you can reflect in a more extended historical context. And you recall lambasting the Democratic Labour Party, I do. You can't tax your way out of a recession. And that is a fact, right? But the mini budget that came immediately after the election, I still got home a copy of it. I tallied the pluses and the minuses, and that mini budget immediately after the election had net takings to the government by way of revenue of $104 million. Net takings of $104 million. Then we had the government declaring in a unilateral way that it will repudiate on its debt payments. And by the time they had repudiated and they had come to that exercise, and it was a prelude, and they want us to believe it is part of some debt exchange and debt restructuring, etc. I want you to understand that when you repudiate on about $4.5 billion in debt, that debt restructuring, there's a difference between restructuring your debt and repudiating on your debt, right? And if you can restructure the debt in a way that you have multi-year restructuring agreements, as we call them in finance, in the study of sovereign debt, that those multi-year restructuring agreements must include the consideration and the interest of the other side, that is, the side of those who are owed, who the government owe the money to. So when you repudiate, you're taking a decision, but I ain't give a hell about you. I take a decision that I can't pay you, and to hell with you, I ain't paying you. So as Eswick said, let's start with the National Insurance Fund. That's our money, you know. $1.6 billion gone. Never, ever to be repaid. And you can tell me now, the last actuarial report seeking to determine in a very definitive way and a quantitative way the integrity of the National Insurance Fund. But I must say one thing. Those actuarial reports on the National Insurance Fund, they ought to be done in a more timely manner. Because that actuarial report looks at what has transpired up to, I think, 2017 or 2018. And the contents of that report, some of it might be useful still, but between 2018 and 2021, as Eswick said, events have overtaken what had happened to the National Insurance Fund during the period of the actuarial review. So all I'm saying, another actuarial review has to be done and done quickly. Though some of the recommendations may still be relevant, too much has happened to the fund to disturb and to compromise the integrity of the National Insurance Fund. And that's the point I'm trying to make. But the central bank money, a lot of money provided by the central bank in accommodating finance, printing money, and these vagabonds come. And by the stroke of a pen, $1.268 billion gone off the portfolio, investment portfolio of the central bank with the government. Then they turn to the commercial banks and the other domestic financial institutions. About $800 million written off the investment portfolio of the domestic financial institutions. And then you are going to come and expect that with all of this noise, that those who do business with the commercial banks complaining about large fees, not just the nature of the fees, but the structure of the fees. Are we complaining bitterly and bitterly that the fees so high? They're charging fees for non-essential items, and the government remaining mute. The government had to remain mute because the government, by the stroke of a pen, took away about $800 million from the commercial banks and other domestic financial institutions. So they couldn't respond to us when we were crying out loud. And that one, Mayor Motley, when the cries got so loud, you remember, she woke up from sleeping from somewhere and she made some statement seeking to threaten the commercial banks that if they don't do something about it, that she will intervene with legislation. Have you heard anything more about it? Have you heard anything more about it? Have you seen the fees change in any material way? That is the nature of the woman, a hypocrite. That is the nature of the woman, a hypocrite. As public opinion seems to be swaying against the government, she intervenes with a statement. A statement of non-intent because it's never carried out. It's a statement to fool people. But then in there, the writing off, they turn to the private bondholders as well, another government paper. And they decimated them with what we call a haircut in finance. And they shave the value, 15% of the value of private investors in government paper up to that point. You know, no government in the history of Barbados going forward, no government going forward in Barbados economic management should be allowed to take away the hard-earned investment of any institution or any individual without first sitting them down or their representatives and discussing the financial predicament the government is in. And we need some legislation in this country to prevent a government from taking unilateral action to take away a portion of people's investment. I would not call it a criminal act because they did it and they got through with it. But we must find the resolve to stop future administrations from doing that. If you want a man, we can do it with a commercial bank. If we owe a bank, and the bank think we owe the bank long enough, we owe them long enough, they come after us and they say, come in and have a discussion with us. Because if things stick with you, you can't just refuse to pay, otherwise we can call in the loan and possess whatever you put up as collateral for the loan. So if you don't want that to happen, because they got a legal right to do that, man, come in and discuss with us. And let me arrive at terms that are less onerous. Right? So we may give you a grace period for the payment of interest. They may delay the further payments of the amortization payments. That is the portion of the principal that you reduce. But they can do those things. And they can also reduce the interest rate on the loan too, so that you're paying a lesser interest rate at intervals. That is how decent and civilized people do business. But these people come in like a bull in a Chinese shop. Motley is the boss and the country belongs to she at the point of arrival, and I can do as I like, including repudiating on almost 33% of the debt of the government up to that time. And you know, I sit and I listen. You know, when they arrive on the doorstep of the IMF, they brag that the debt to GDP ratio in Barbados was reduced from 170% or so to 117%. You know, they brag about that, you know. They brag about that. But you know how I write there? The GDP never moved from its $10 billion in national output. So it got reduced from 171% to 170% because they refused and they repudiated on about $4.5 to $5 billion in debt. So it brought the debt from about $17 billion down to just under $12 billion. And you know that they brag about that. And they went in the House and they legislated too as part of their debt restructuring program. That is what they did. So that the other day, when they wanted to float that bond for $125 million because finance is extremely tight, you know, when they went to the same people that they are unfair, you know, the people say, I do not have any time with you. That is an administration that I will not trust buying government paper from. So you know what the vagabonds did? They then turned to the central bank. And the central bank says that we will underrate it. And the same people, including me at the time, who expounded on all the negative consequences of printing money. I live to see that they're going back on their same trajectory, but they're begging for a little forgiveness for the central bank taking up the $125 million in bonds that they float because it was extremely urgent for them to get the money. But that wasn't the only time, you know, that the central bank been buying up the government bonds, you know. You remember Miss Motley came with this thing called the BOSS program. You know the BOSS program? And you all got to understand these things, you know. Because economic management, it's isn't a case you get it one morning and say, because I was the Prime Minister, I give me the Minister of Finance, you know. Because she is as ignorant to financial matters as I am to medical matters. And when Arthur had himself, before Clay came, Tyrone Barker, Parliamentary Secretary, he had Cardasola for a short time, then he sent it back to the CDB. He sent home the man who was loitering on the doorsteps at Bay Street, government headquarters, when he took over. He had a fairly competent cabinet of about 16 people, but he trusted the advice and the ability of the central bankers and the professionals in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. Limited is this woman's ability, because it's very limited when it comes to finance and economic matters. She may be a political animal, and she makes political decisions all the time, but she goes and surround herself with Rain and Marsha. That should tell you something. But not enough. She surrounds herself with Clyde, with Abby, with another one, Kevin. And you see, also, this Barbados Labour Party government paid $27 million to White Oak for a minimal amount of work. Because everybody knew, and we said it in the last campaign, that you had to do something with the mountain debt. So you had to reprofile it. This is a little different to restructure. But you had to do something about it. And you can pay a firm $27 million to tell you not to pay back $4.5 billion. And for you to do a restructuring of your debt. And the size of the debt we're talking about could only justify about $2 or $3 million being paid for the work, you know. But I got $27 million. So that even the financial newspapers in Britain and the USA want to know what could have possessed a new government in Barbados that they can give $27 million to do the work that other countries got done for $2 or $3 million. That is how it started here. And we have not recovered. So we have a situation. Why do you call a snapping leg? So, one of a couple of reasons. The economy is in a direct mess. And every day, you're hearing more and more evidence of the economic morass we're in. We have serious social problems in Barbados, occasioned by the economic mismanagement and the motley approach to governance. So the economy is in a mess, and she tell you that rough decisions have to be made. So you know, the person who in charge of this country for the last 3.5 years got to be responsible for the fact that rough decisions got to be made now. So that's another reason to get rid of she. That's one reason. Another reason is that some polls might have been done. Commissioned Peter Wickham to do some polls or something. Might have done. And the polls show and must have startled her that Barbadians are not going to stand for this high-handed, lawless approach to governance. So the polls might have reflected that the momentum is swinging towards the Democratic Labour Party. And the longer you wait, given the state of the society and the economy, more and more ground would be lost. So she called the snap election for fear that if she didn't do it, the Democratic Labour Party would indeed wipe them out if she had held on any longer. Another reason why she might have called the snap election, and we have fairly recent experience with Mr. Sandyford and his approach. When the folks made a move on Sandyford went up to the government general and said, I'm not the only one going down, everybody coming down with me. And he called an election early too. So that is another plausible explanation. That there might have been a run on Motley, as we say. She obviously doesn't like that because her pride is too large. So she stopped the fellas in their tracks and the women. I'm just supposing. And to call an election in the hope that the folks will line back up behind she. But Barbadians in their wider numbers ain't lining up behind she anymore. Because she asked for the vote, give me the vote and watch me. And we watch, and I watch too. And I watch some economic and social destruction on a scale and at a rate that forced me to leave the Barbados Labour Party. And the only thing that has happened is that it has continued on that downward spiral at a rapid pace, at a more rapid pace since I left the party on the 26th of June last year. So I have reason to be where I am. Because I take into consideration the wider Barbadian public's interest. And it has been poorly served in the last 3 years and 7 months. And I want to implore you to join with us. I said on a couple of occasions in this campaign already, this is perhaps definitely the most important election that I am participating in, albeit not as an elective, not as a candidate. This election cannot be about David Eswick and Kay McConney, because as far as I'm concerned, you will not take your position here with complacency. Because you got to get everybody out. And another reason why it might be called a pandemic too, is because the Barbados Labour Party looking for a low turnout and for them to step over the line as a result of a low turnout. You have all good reason. That Barbados Labour Party is such a hated administration now. And the only way they can win the election is by people not going out to vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Because even bees tell me that they are so ashamed, but they're not as brave as me. Because they're not as independent as me. They're still hanging on for a little crumb to drop off the table. But of course, my parents and the people who invest in education in me, they invest in education in me, they invest to keep my mouth shut when lawlessness and unfair things and wrong things are being done. They actually send messages to me to keep me off the platform. Man, Woody, man, give me a chance, man. Man, come back and join the party, man. Man, Woody, you can't treat me so. I can afford to treat you so because of what you have done to the people in Barbados, including me and my family. And I can't go back and join the party I can't recognize. The last time I recognized the Barbados Labour Party was up to the last election. But ever since the election, I can't recognize it. It's not the institution that I came up in. It's not an institution that had promoted foundational principles and that motto meant something, a better life for our people. It meant something up to the time when Arthur was in charge. But it ain't mean anything now. It is a plaything of motley, just like the country is a plaything of motley. So this election ain't about Eswick in K-McConney and it stops there, or we're in Marshall, Lashley and Dr. Brown. This election is about what we can do by our vote, which government we can put in place to take Barbados out of its social, economic, and morality morass and put us back on a trajectory where there is hope, some sort of hope of restoration of economic progress, social progress, moral progress. And if you understand that this election is so crucial, that it is bigger than a candidate fighting against a candidate, and if you pitch it at that level, you know the Barbados Labour Party cannot be the party to take us out of this social, economic, and moral morass. It could only be the Democratic Labour Party. These fellas have learned their lesson. These fellas understood what the vote against them in the last election meant. David is correct. I force him. I would imagine many other people too. We have been in discussion on economic matters now for the last 2.5 years. I commend this man and I present this man, not only the people of St. Philip West again. This man is ready for higher national duty. This man has acquired knowledge on a scale because of his interest and his commitment to knowledge acquisition in the area of economics and finance and public policy. That makes him pivotal to the economic recovery process in Barbados. And if I tell you so, you can believe you me, because we have been interacting for almost 2.5 years. And I tell him you cannot stay out. Not only the constituents down here need you, not only the Democratic Labour Party needs you as a candidate, but the country, first and foremost, needs you as a public policy shaper. That has been my message to him for the last 6 months. And when he told me that, Woody, I'm going to do it, I told him that I will be behind you 100%. I have come to St. Martin's. I went out to Chapel. I come down here in Leadville. Isn't that a demonstration of commitment to David Eswick and his worth to helping Barbados get back on some trajectory where the country once again means something to the normal person? This country is not configured to advance the interests of the ordinary person. The Barbados Labour Party has reconfigured this country to make it on a platter, put it on a platter, to advance the interests of those who have. I said on numerous occasions, when Arthur was in charge of the Barbados Labour Party, I could have actualized my philosophy for entering politics, and that was to stop poor people from being poor. What is happening now, because that was Arthur's philosophy too. And because we did a lot of economics, we know about economic justice. We know also when to intervene with policies to ensure that the most vulnerable in society, that something gets done to them. We know also how to create an environment for progress for the middle class and for the business class, so that the government can rake in some more taxes and the government can use redistributive mechanisms in order, through subsidies and other direct payments, to get down less fortunate in society. That is what Arthur and I study, man. That is what we came to politics for, to stop poor people from being poor, but to use our skills to build out an economy so that the economy is indeed producing for almost all Barbadians. Now, we have an implosion in this economy under Mayor Motley. And as the economy, the pie shrinks, those who got money getting richer, and what is left to distribute across the majority, it is too little. And the distribution continues to leave too much to be desired. We got serious, serious problems, and we can thank Motley and her administrators for it. Who would imagine? I told my colleagues, I just tell my colleague, once you enter a program with the IMF, I mean, everything is written down in stone. You are set targets, we call them conditionalities. If you want to get another tranche from the IMF, man, you got to pass your targets. You got to meet your conditionality. I said, but gliding the folks. But once you get the program with the IMF structured, man, but then the need for so much economic consultants. You got the folks at the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance. Man, they will help you monitor the implementation of the program. Man, they only need one of you. If it is going to be Kevin, man, they need you, Clyde, or they need Avi, they need White Oak. So once you get up to concluding the BERT program, it is just about monitoring. So there's no need for one to let the technical officials who are just as highly trained as them, man, let them take over like how Arthur had them working. Money paid to you all, that money could have been spent elsewhere. Money paid to so many cabinet members. You only need one Minister of Finance if you're in a program with the IMF. You get an advisor to Motley. And that's the only story. Let the officials do the work. It's just about monitoring and ensuring that you meet your target. And the nature of the work of Avi and Clyde and White Oak is different up to what a monitoring team would do. Because that's what the officials do feel. Once you ready the program and hand it over, that is how our system of government works. So I can't tell you what Avi and Clyde and, but not Kevin, because Kevin will be there to monitor. But I can't tell you what Avi and Clyde have been doing for the last 3 years since that program was agreed to. I can't tell you what White Oak has been doing for Barbados since they advised on the debt restructuring and repudiation. I can't tell you, and I should be in a position to tell you what a fellow who is trained in a similar way to me doing. I should be in a position to do that, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you what the other two ministers of finance doing. I can't even tell you what Motley doing, because she would have not even bring a budget in the last 3 years. I don't know what she's doing. I know she run the country to drain. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to abuse the privilege the police have given me so far, right? 15 minutes gone, beyond 10 o'clock. And you can see I'm in one of those moods now that I get into when I get down to university to deliver, right? But you got to respect the rules. I lead the breaking of the rules for the Barbados Labour Party and the breaking of the laws for the Barbados Labour Party. I'm going to come home now recognizing that there's a need for me as a disciplined individual to respect the rules that this meeting has a closing time, which was agreed to. But before I step off of here, I want you all just recognize that this is a monkey election. If this was a monkey election, I would be home. My 2 daughters came back from Trinidad today. I would be home spending some time with them. Their mother remained in Trinidad. She's coming back later in the month. I will be home with my daughters. I ain't seen them for 2 weeks.
Oh, Lord!
So, but I get into that time with them, go soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, meaning they will move on their own when they finish study. So I'm just saying, it is not a monkey election, because I'm here, and I was there, and I will be everywhere until January the 18th. I want you all to take it serious. And if you pitch it as an election to regain and regain the heart and soul of Barbados, you will understand and get a greater appreciation why is it that you need to go and support David Eswick down here? Because you know in him, based on what I've just told you, and based on what the Barbados Labour Party has done to this economy, that you really can't give him another choice. The worst thing the Barbados Labour Party has done is to put on their posters, put Motley all about Barbados. Because the candidates ain't got no worth now anymore, you know. They put Motley, so you look up there, you voting for Motley. Because you can vote for the candidates, but the one around here, you don't even know she, so you can't be voting for she. So you put Motley on all the posters, but you put the person up there who's the chief architect of the destruction of the society and the economy. And I say always that if somebody has do you wrong, the last thing that they should be doing is allowing you to see the face. Because it stirs up your inside more and more, and you get to hate them even more. So that is what I've been hearing as they move around. So she put on the posters, stay the course. By you stay the course, you mean we can do now? You can stay the course, go up for Motley again, and then all we got to run from Barbados. Man, do the right thing. Let me get on a different course. Because we have to get on a different course. Man, vote for Eswick down here. I will deal with voting for Neil Marshall up there, and let me get the country back on the path where people feel good about being a Barbadian again. I'm obliged to you.
David Eswick, he was always my representative, and he will be my representative until he says different.
Yeah, I know David Eswick to be a very good man. I met him personally, and the conversations we had really showed me that he's a man that's willing to do for anybody that can help bring up themselves the same way. You understand?
Yes, he's always for the constituents, and he's always for I. He's very vibrant, and again, you can talk to him, you can get assistance from him. He's good for the constituency, for Barbados, and for I.
He used to always look out for the people. Like, anytime you get to read, he would never say no. That's one thing for sure I know as growing up. His energy is just a vibe, and I will always vote for you, though. And it's always for you, David, always.
I know David for a long time, man. David always around every shop corner, Breton, Sunbury, even 6 Rose, Ebenezer. I never left you out. Give you anything at all. You can't be hungry when Mr. Eswick.
David is a proper man. He's good and all for the wrong the fellows. And he was ever a proper man to the fellows in the Constituency.
Every time he lets you come, David are retired. David are retired. David are retired. David are retired.
I know David from the time he was born. He has always been very progressive, knowledgeable, and caring. I, Keith Allen, is always for you, David.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. David Eswick. Always for you, David Eswick. Jesus.
The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best